What is up, my dude? Welcome, welcome, welcome. You belong here and you matter. Your role as a father is critical and you don't hear it enough. Thank you for getting your booty out of bed today and for tuning in to lean into your opportunity responsibility as a father. You are important. Three nuggets that hit me from my conversation with my friend Bill Marr today are one, our job as fathers is to model behavior to our kiddos. Two, vulnerability as fathers is key to raising humans. And number three, no one is going to do this for you. Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft of fatherhood. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 22nd year of marriage. So yes, I'm in the thick of it. I'm in this with you, and I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Bill Marr. I met him a few months back at an event, and his story of being homeless as a teen, making choices as a young adult, and cultivating incredible relationships with his kiddos while overcoming anxiety is truly remarkable. His story is going to help you lean into your opportunity as a father. Enjoy meeting my friend, Bill. All right, Bill, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today?
Good. Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee. I know I'm already one French press in. It's 9 a.m. here, noon where you're at. What's your go-to coffee? What do you put in it? How do you drink it?
Oh, man. I like that first question. I drink an Americano right from my Jura coffee maker I bought for Christmas. My wife and I don't exchange gifts, so I bought myself a Jura. It's kind of a fancy coffee maker, and I just do Americano, put just a touch of heavy whipping cream to change the color. And then I use Swerve. I don't use sugar or anything. I use Swerve, which is an alternative sweetener. So, yeah.
Delicious. I just go French press, black. Just love it. Love it. All right, my friend. How old do you find yourself today?
Oh, 52.
Yeah, baby. How's 52 feel?
52 at the moment feels kind of fat. I'm living my best life right now. I'm trying to enjoy my summer in Aptos, and I look forward to the time where it's beer 30 somewhere. But yeah, 52 feels good. I enjoy the wisdom that it brings just through life experience and having to navigate all the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys. So yeah, feel good.
So this is perfect. So I just turned 42 last week. So you've got a decade on me. If you think back to being 42, what would be that thing you'd go back and tell that dude that you could tell me?
Trust God. I've known he's always been there, but I don't always lean on him. I'm constantly leaning on my own understanding, which is garbage. Though we have some wisdom as we get older, there's nothing better than just being able to actually really truly believe that he has us and that he loves us and that he will take care of us and he will see us through our darkest moments. And so I would just say to myself, trust in God in all things and the rest will take care of itself.
Dude, it's funny. I actually really needed to hear that this morning. And what's funny about it too is like I woke up kind of irritated, just some things from yesterday. And I read my morning affirmations, and it's like, dude, I've been reading these every morning for a while and I still forget, but exactly what you said. So one of I only have 4 right now. And one of them is I don't get offended. With this caveat, my father doesn't give me more than I can handle. And so I love what you said with the like, okay, just trust God. It's like, all right, sheesh, I needed to hear that. And he doesn't give you more than you can handle. That doesn't mean you have to do it on your own, like lean on your own understanding, like you said, but it does mean that you can do whatever he's given to you.
Yeah, I mean, I always have to remind myself, and I have said this a million times, it doesn't mean I put it into practice all the time. The thing that I've always taken away from scripture or faith or belief or fellowship or anything God focused is humility. I think having the ability to say, man, I'm kind of an idiot. In fact, actually, I'm a giant idiot and I'm just trying to do my best. I'm always going to fail, which doesn't mean we shouldn't try or give all effort, but we're going to fail. We're going to fall short, and that's okay. And know that God loves you no matter what. And so I just try to, the thing that I have always loved about scripture, I don't know that I would consider myself a good Christian. I don't know if there is such a thing, but humility for me is key to everything I do because it takes all the pressure off. You don't need to feel like if I don't get it right, I don't get it perfect, I say the wrong thing to my kids in a moment of anger or whatever it might be. Just go, it's not an excuse to act or say things that you shouldn't, but it's definitely humility gives you the ability to not put so much pressure on yourself because we're good at that on our own.
Yeah. 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 That's good. Really good. Well, I'm sure that'll come up more since that's a theme of yours. Bill, how many years you been married?
24 in September.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, so same sort of question there is you're kind of creeping up on that 25 year. I mean, you're coming up to 24, but 25's there. What's the thing that you would tell the dude who's kind of like coming up to his 10 year, right? And he's like, dude, oh my gosh, thinking about another whatever. What would you speak life into that guy's world?
Really good questions. Well, if you're lucky enough to have the right partner, and very fortunate, I would just say that compromise. You have to be willing to compromise, and you don't have to be right about things. Compromise is the key to marriage. They say happy wife, happy life, and that's pretty darn true, as we all know. You don't have to be married to that's pretty important. But yeah, just compromised. And I won the wife lottery. I don't deserve her, but I'll keep her. And yeah, compromise. You just have to be willing to say, okay, even if you're right in a moment, or even if you think the other person's wrong, is it worth continuing conflict in order to be right? Or is it worth resolving the conflict in order to cherish and love your wife?
Yeah, I mean, that really just, if you were to sum it up in one word, that brings your humility theme back in, right? Sounds like you've got this posture of humility towards your marriage, which is cool. How many kiddos do you guys have?
We have three.
And what's that age spread?
We have a 21-year-old Spencer, 15-year-old Cooper, and 15-year-old.
Love it, dude. So good. So good. And then where do you guys do life?
We do life in Folsom, outside the prison.
Okay.
Yeah, we do life in Folsom 8 to 9 months out of the year. And then we spend our summers in Aptos, which is where I'm at now. So incredibly blessed and fortunate enough to be able to spend our summers at the beach. And so as I get older, I wish somebody would have said this to me 20 years ago. Really, my son's 21, but technically speaking, you're only getting 18 summers with your kids. And so when you're younger, you're chasing success or doing this or doing that. But for us, Aptos is about spending as much time as humanly possible during that summer with our children.
It's good. Really good. And a good reminder to us. What is it that you do to feed the family and provide value out in the world?
I do employee benefits. I broker group health insurance to employers. So yeah, very fortunate to be in a position to provide for my family. So
yeah, love it, dude. We connected. We're in the same area, so we connected at a event 2 months ago, and so that's what led to this conversation. Some things you shared with me, which I'll bring up in a little bit, but I got a couple questions for you first. Bill, in your opinion, what's the role of the father?
well, again, I'm going to bring it back to scripture. I go to a church in South Sacramento called New Seasons, and the pastor is a gentleman named Sam Rodriguez, and he's super rad. Growing up, I went to church in East Palo Alto. My best friend happened to be black, but he was Panamanian, so his family spoke Spanish, so it was kind of weird for me. His mom would yell at him in Spanish, and I'm like, black people speak Spanish, but ignorance. And he's like, dude, we're from Panama. We speak Spanish there. So I used to go to church in East Palo Alto, and I was literally the only white kid in a Baptist all-black church for like 7 years. And people are falling out and speaking in tongues, minds. And again, if I'm being 100% honest, right? My friend Edwin and I, my best friend growing up, we used to take the 22 on the El Camino from Santa Clara to East Palo Alto on the 22, a bus pass. And his aunt, God bless him, they would pay us to go to church. So we were going for the dough, right? You're a young kid, you're not really into it. So yeah, so good on them. But as a result of that, I've been really looking when I go to some churches, and I don't dislike any of them, but I want to go there and I want to feel something. I want to get out of my comfort zone because so New Seasons is a church in Sacramento. They get after it. And the thing I love about it most is it's a giant melting pot. So there's all ethnicities there. Sam Rodriguez said something really important and profound. And my daughter actually threw it back on me recently, which was awesome. But my role is to be a priest, a provider, and a protector, the 3 Ps. Again, I probably fall short on some of that, but yeah, first is faith, second is provide, and third is protect. So if I do those 3 things most of the time.
Question I've been starting to ask guys, especially those who are of faith, is, and you could answer this in 2 ways, but one, what are you doing to lead your family in faith today? And then how are you imparting your faith to your kids so that it lives beyond them living in your home?
Well, again, I didn't say I was good at it. Unfortunately, we're not a church family, right? Like I go to church, I bring my daughter to church. My son Cooper went to a Christian school for some time. My older boy has been saved. All my kids have been saved. They've all accepted Christ. I definitely need to do a better job, and I have some guilt over that about bringing my family to church on Sundays and making it a priority. And we don't do that. But again, I don't think the God that I love and know, I don't think he looks at me and goes, "Oh, you failure. This is awful. You're not being a good." I don't see it that way. But one thing that I try to do is I try to talk. And again, I'm probably going to mess these verses up, but just I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Or I need to learn more about James 1:19. And again, I'm going to screw up the scripture, but it's essentially saying, be slow to anger, slow to speech, very quick to listen, right? So yeah, I think I try to talk about scripture. And one of the things I've started saying to my kids, which is really scary for me, I'm being honest, this idea that I will never let you down, at least not intentionally, but I'm nothing compared to your heavenly Father. Our earthly fathers let people down all the time, but our heavenly Father will never, ever let you down. And so it's hard when somebody asked me a while back, they said, what's most important in your life? And I was like, well, my family. And they're like, no, that's wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? They go, it should be God, because God provides you that family. God provides you protection. He provides you, you know, so, and I totally understand it now. So yeah, I just try to explain to my kids, hey, you shouldn't be looking to me all the time for stuff. And I'm here for you no matter what, right? We'll do the ends of the earth for our children. But you should be on your hands and knees asking God to give you grace and strength and protection and guidance and whatever else you need, because there could come a day when I'm not here. And what I want to do is not allow them to understand that is first and foremost, so that when we leave this earth, they have that as a way to guide them.
Yeah. Dude, I love your answer. I think over the years of doing the podcast and being a dad and wrestling with like, what does it mean, and hearing hundreds of answers of what does it mean to be a father, I think that the crux of it, like that you're spot on, that the primary role is for us to point our kids to their creator, right? Because we will let them down. You ask any 40-year-old, doesn't matter if they have the most killer dad ever or whatever, there are areas that are they're quote unquote let down, but it's not really let down if we already knew that he wasn't supposed to solve each and every problem you had, right? His goal is to keep you alive, feed you, and teach you who you are. And I think like if we're doing that, especially if it's from you, I like your posture of humility versus like if you would have spouted off 20 scriptures just now, like just totally confident, hey, super cool, right? I would like to be that guy. But I think the posture of like, I'm going to screw these up, but this is the heart behind it. That's really the point, right? The point is like, I get the heart. I don't know exactly where or what, but I know who I am. And I'm going to point you kiddos to who you are. And that's the point. That's it. I think it's good. Yeah, man, because dude, life is just too messy. The moment we start saying we've got this shit figured out, we're full of shit ourselves. We are here. It matters big time. So going back to the other thing you said, and I'll shut my mouth, is people saying what's most important to you. And you're like, well, my family. Oh, well, no, it's supposed to be God. Obviously, but those who sacrifice their family so that they are I'm every Sunday morning, I'm there at 5 a.m. to be, you know what I mean? That to me is missing the point of the reason why my answer is family is because I know that the number one thing God gave me responsibility over is my family. And so when I say family, it's in relationship to what God's called me to.
Yeah, I mean, we're ultimately at the helm. If you accept that responsibility, as most fathers do, and you bring up a really good point too, though, but I feel bad for the fathers who want to do the right thing, but they don't have an example. They don't have a good barometer. They grew up in a dysfunctional environment. The person they married is also dysfunctional. So they're dysfunctional together and they love their kids and they want to be there for them, but they don't have any example of how it is they should be behaving or parenting their kids. I mean, even just behavior. I mean, I won't take a lot of credit for how our children have turned out beyond grateful that we're big into sports. My older boy's big into sports, and I feel like I'm going off on a tangent a little bit here, but our kids are involved in sports, and when your kids first get involved in sports, you're a crazy parent. I was insane. I wanted my son Spencer to be the next first baseman for the Giants and so forth. But one of my really close friends who actually played at a very high level in the big leagues said to me, we're raising teams. We're not raising baseball players. And so in that same sort of idea, my wife and I have learned, and she's taught me for our children. And so what you say, how you say it, how you treat your wife, how you treat your boys, you know, all of that stuff matters. And our kids remember everything. So when you're on the car ride to practice and you're trying to explain to your daughter the importance of being kind to friends, or you're trying to explain to your son the importance of getting up a little bit early and being 10 minutes and all those things, and they're going in their eyes and you don't think they're listening, they're sponges. They hear it all. So I think it's just really super important to understand behavior. And you know what? If you're a father and you're worried about being a good father, I think you're 95% there, because it means you care and it means you want to do the right thing. And none of us have the exact perfect answer of how to do that. So we just need to cheer each other on and support each other and show some love and kindness towards those who we're just doing our best, man.
So good. So you said having a good example. So I know you have a bit of a unique story here. Who was your example? Did you have one?
Yeah, I didn't really have one, but two things that are really in my memory, and they're very vivid. And I don't know why this is, but I have a photographic memory. Like, I have a video memory. Like, if you were to drive me to a location and not tell me what city we were in, but wherever it is we started at and drove me to a location and then go back, and then 30 years later, I would be able to go back to that same place through literally like a video memory. Good or bad. It's good in some ways, bad in others, but I didn't really have an example. Things are really important to me. God always gave me the ability to know that when I was looking at what other people were doing, their behavior was poor, or they were making bad choices, whether it be excessive drinking or doing drugs, or I had a lot of really terrible examples growing up. I'm so grateful that I always knew that was wrong, and I never wanted to repeat it. I always went, wow, that's dumb. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was I always had an attraction to kids or adult semi-normal environment. So if I met a kid at school, was fortunate enough to hang out with him, and his parents were married, and he had maybe a sibling or two or no siblings, but they had like a nice family unit and a dog and just sort of basic stuff. I was, and I just wanted to hang out with those people or that kid more. I was drawn to the family and I was drawn to this idea of no dysfunction.
So tell me, however much you want, what was your story in family as a kid?
The Reader's Digest version is my mom, sorry, my biological father left when I was 2, and he had a lot of trauma that I found out about later on. So I'm definitely, I still have a lot of stuff to work through about that. But my dad left when I was 2. My mom married the neighbor when I was 4. And we lived in kind of a crappy part of San Jose. I grew up in San Jose. And my neighbor became my stepdad. He seemed like a really good guy. And then unfortunately, we moved. We went from living in like kind of a crappy house to living in a really nice house. And my stepfather was an accountant. Worked hard. His way of showing love to people was through gifts and money. He would always buy us things or do things for us outwardly. Unfortunately, my mom had a bookkeeping business and she started embezzling money from bookkeeping clients in order to feed a cocaine. Don't know how all that started, but so basically, when I was 7, my mom went to Chowchilla State Prison for Women, and she basically was in and out of prison the rest of my life until she passed when she was 56. My stepfather remarried when I was 15, but from age 7 to 15, my stepfather and I, we were bros. We were like thick as thieves, played tennis, played golf, living my best life. Just the two. And my sister Janine was involved. But again, full transparency, my sister got the short end of the stick. My stepfather treated her differently. He loved her and he supported her and he took care of her in terms of putting a roof over her head, but he didn't have the relationship I did with him. And then he remarried, and my stepmom, stepmonster, she basically didn't want to be a part of our lives in any way. And so over a period of months, both my stepfather and now his new wife pretty much just gave up on me and my sister. So my sister moved in with a guy that she'd been dating for a long time, and I ended up living homeless for about almost 10 months in Santa Clara. So,
And were you going to school? So you were in high school, or what were you?
I missed my whole sophomore year of high school, and yeah, I was sleeping at the park. I was sleeping at 7-Eleven. I knew the owner of 7-Eleven in Santa Clara. His name was Denny. He was a really wonderful guy. I think that's how I became a salesman. And I have to tell you this story. It's actually kind of funny. 2 quick things. I don't know why I feel like I have to say this, but I used to sleep at Homestead. And Homestead Park, there's a huge sandbox and a play structure. And I was freezing cold, man. I was cold. I was hungry. I was so bummed. And what's even more bizarre, my father lived like 40 yards from where I was sleeping in the townhouses, but I couldn't sleep there. They just basically just gave up on me. And I was a straight A student. I played on the golf team. I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't smoking. I wasn't doing drugs or anything. So I always remember this because I go to the beach a lot. When you dig down in the sand, 2 feet, a foot, whatever, I used to cover myself in sand to try and get warmth. It doesn't work. I was so bummed. Dude, that sand, when the sun goes down, the sand just instantly turns cold. It's so I'm at the 7-Eleven. I'm stocking shelves. I'm filling bags of ice. I'm fronting the cooler. I'm doing everything. A little money from Denny. And I was always hungry. And he would say, hey, man, if those hot dogs sit on the roller for too long, you can have one. I'm like, all right, cool. No big deal. Well, a lot of times people would come in and, of course, they're buying hot dogs. So I got smart. And people would come in to eat a hot dog. And I'd be like, and then they would leave it. And then after a period of time, if I did that to enough people, it would ensure that I could get a hot dog. So, and the dude at the store, the people who worked at 7-Eleven, right, they didn't care. Sometimes I think they even heard me and they're like, hey, do your thing.
That's so funny. So do you like hot dogs still?
Not really. No. No, you got to really dress up a dog for me to eat it because, yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing I need, again, not to sound super self deprecating, but I am. The last thing I need is a hot dog, man. What I need is a salad.
Oh my goodness. So any reconciliation with your stepdad or your biological dad as an adult?
So what ultimately happened, and all this is kind of the rest of it. And again, I'm trying to make it really short. I don't know. I just don't want to take up too much time. My mom called me through a close friend, and he came and talked to me and said, "Hey, man, I got it. Your mom called me, and your mom said she's living in Crescent City." And I'm like, "Crescent City? Where the hell is that?" I never left Santa Clara or San Jose, kind of the Bay Area. So my mom got a hold of me, and I found out she was living in Crescent City, which is on the California-Oregon border on the coast of California, 85 miles north of Eureka. So I get on a Greyhound bus, zoom up to Crescent City, and my mom is living in the single wide mobile home on the edge of Highway 101 in Smith River, is what it's called. And I'm like, oh, God. I mean, it was like rat infested. And it was just awful. But it was a roof. And I'm like, hey, I'm with my mom. And I didn't have a good relationship with her, right? Because I was always in prison, which sucked. So I was pretty pissed about it. But so I go live with my mom. Well, I was only with my mom for about a month and a half. I don't remember exactly. My mom used to rent, or not rent, my mom's boyfriend worked at this restaurant that was attached to her bar. It's called The Landing. It's still there. And the landing and the restaurant had a common door. One couldn't go into the bar. So I was like a little puppy dog. I would just hang out at the restaurant all day because I didn't have anything else to do. And I befriended one of the bartenders. And Jenny had introduced me to the owners, Greg and Rhonda. And Greg and Rhonda owned the landing. And when you met Greg and Rhonda, again, this was one of those things, it's relevant. You could tell in a place like Crescent City, which is real small, there's not a lot of affluence, if you will, but you could tell Greg and Rhonda had money. You could just tell that they were pretty well to do, had their shit together. I don't know. And Greg was this very posing figure. He was probably 5'11, 5'10, 5'11, but he weighed about 220. And I don't think he had any body fat on him. He was just a beast of a man. And it turns out he logged a big logging operation. And then Rhonda owned the bar and they owned a bunch of rental properties and stuff. So unfortunately, I wasn't there when she got arrested, but Delaware County Sheriff arrested her. It turns out my mom was a fugitive. Again, she wasn't like Robin Banks, but she had gotten out of Chowchilla State Prison for women, moved to Lake Tahoe, reoffended by embezzling more money, got rearrested, convicted, sentenced, and then she jumped bail. So she never showed up to serve time. She was in Crescent City dating. She didn't want to go back to prison, and I get it. So now I'm in Crescent City, and my mom got arrested, and she's gone. And I'm like, again, man, by the grace of God, Greg and Rhonda took me in. They approached me one day and said, hey, we think you're a good kid, and we'll give you a place to live. And again, it sounds terrible, but I'm like, are you guys pedophiles? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, seriously, right? These people don't even know me. They've heard I'm a good kid, but they didn't know me. And yeah, they took me in. I ended up finishing high school. I went to this high school called Sunset. It's kind of a continuation school, but the reason I went there is because you could make up time. So if you did X number of credits, you got credit. It wasn't like you just go to school and complete classes. You just have to make your credits in order to graduate. So I was going to school all day, made up my whole sophomore year, my first year there. And then I signed up to go into the Army on the delayed entry program with a buddy of mine, Ryan Reese. So I already knew I was going off to the Army because I wanted to go into law enforcement. And so, yeah. So I ended up off to the Army and finished high school with straight A's. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Wow, man. Thank you for sharing. It's so interesting because so much of our culture lives as victims and they don't even have half the story that you have. And it seems as though, like, continuously through your story, you're working a 7-Eleven, you're finding yourself at this restaurant, you're finding ways to help yourself with whatever you had in front of you. So what do you think that difference is? Like, what's the secret sauce there where some folks are just, oh, poor me, and like, my life is dog shit because I let certain circumstances, whatever, hold me down. And you had blow after blow in a sense, but when the opportunities came knocking, your eyes were open.
Getting the chills thinking about it, what you said about the victim mentality. So, and I'm so glad you asked that question. But, and I've said this about 1,000 times. I was at Greg and Rhonda's house one day, and I'd only been there for about a month. And it was really weird because right after I started living with them again, I'm not even 16 yet. The logging industry had gone to hell in a handbasket because of the spotted owl issue. So what did my parents do? I called Rhonda. My parents went to the academy in Gulf and they became corrections officers. And now they're working at Pelican Bay State Prison as corrections officers. So talk about, like, how do you say it? Like Twilight Zone. I remember getting collect calls from my mom in Chowchilla. So I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and Greg and Rhonda were like, of course she can call. Would look over in the kitchen, and they would be in prison corrections officer jumpsuits going to work. And I'm like, this is so strange. But, and I will clean up how exactly he said it, but Greg never finished high school. And Greg just knew how to work. He knew that if he worked and worked, he made it. And that's what he did. And so when I look back on it, Greg was 35 at the time. So here's a 35-year-old guy, never finished high school, and takes in a 15-year-old dipshit. Doesn't know me from Adam. I wasn't going to get emotional, but he literally saved my life. He did. He walks up to me and he says, stop holding your effing hands out darn time. And he didn't say it that nicely. And I didn't understand what he said. I didn't understand what he was saying. And I could tell he was upset. And to be on Greg's bad side, because I'm telling you, he was a guy you looked at and he would just destroy you, right? Men, boys, didn't matter. He was just a very strong, and he didn't put up a lot of crap. And he basically said to me, you're walking around with your effing hands out all the time. You're having a, every time I look at you, you got your head, woe is me. And what he basically said was, hey, look, your mom's a piece of crap. Your dad's a piece of crap. And the world has been awful to you. But I'm telling you right now, an effing thing. It doesn't owe you. Nobody owes you anything. And life ain't fair. And you got a shit hand in the card you were dealt. But here's the deal. If you're going to live here and you want to make something of yourself, you better figure out that you got to go get it because it ain't coming. And I can honestly say, even at the time, I was just mad that he was mad and I didn't know what he meant. But over time and get up at 3:34 in the morning every day and go work in the woods or switch careers and become, he never complained, he never whined, he never nothing. He just worked. And so that was literally the moment at which I figured out subconsciously the only way you're going to make something of yourself in this world is to go get it. If you want a cup of water and you want ice in it, you got to get a cup, you got to fill it with ice, you got to get the water. And when you're done with it, it ain't going to crawl itself into the dishwasher, right? I mean, and so it sucks. It's hard.
Dude, that's so good. I mean, everything you just said, I know everyone's just sitting on the edge of their seat listening to this. And even that last statement about go get a cup of water, it's a very simple analogy at the dishwasher. Is like, dude, these are the things we need to be teaching our kids, because the other thing, we don't have to get into it, but it's like, okay, well, now that you are at your beach house in Aptos, right? We're talking, that's a very big difference. How do you take some of those same life skills, character traits of what you've developed through struggle and pass those on to your kids who probably haven't really had to sit in any kind of like cover themselves with sand to try to stay warm at night, right? And so I guess I will ask that question, since I'm kind of on that point for a moment, is how do you pass to your kids hard work and don't be a baby? Yeah, how do you pass that to your kids when you've come to where you're at now?
Well, the crappy part about what you're asking is I always thought I would just explain my story to my kids and then they'd be like, oh, awesome. I'm going to be the most grateful, humble, respectful child, right? No. However, that being said, my son Spencer, who's 21, and I don't have a favorite, I legitimately don't, but in terms of just being an easy kid and never have any conflict and always just been so amazing, never had to hardly discipline him, both my boys, Spencer and Cooper. But yeah, it's just behavior, man. I mean, I've told my story to my kids. They know that and we haven't even talked about this, but they know that I've got some real struggles with mental health and anxiety, and I get panic attacks and I take medication for it. And sometimes I'm terrified. But I just try to model good behavior, man. Yeah, I just try to model good behavior. I talk with my kids about we are very fortunate in terms of we're able to go and stay at some nice hotels and have a beach house and these things, but we are always preaching to our kids. We were in Newport Beach one time, this several years back, and we went down and stayed at some decent, nice hotel and whatever. And we're looking at the Bugattis and all these crazy cars driving around. It looked like an alternate universe. And we live in a nice home and we have nice cars and all that stuff. But we were driving on the way home. There was this homeless encampment that was like attached to the fence and it was like a half mile long. I literally pulled over on the side of the highway. We're just going down the highway and I saw it and I immediately pulled over. All our kids are on devices and stuff. And I said, hey, everybody, what are we doing? I go, look out the window. And they look out the window. What is that? And I go, that's how some of our right? Like we talk about the homeless, we talk about people who are fortunate. And I just said, listen, we were just in Newport Beach and that was like bananas. People have more money than time and sense and whatever. And then you, let's say, live where we live. We live in a nice home and we have nice things, sure. Then there's these people. Like these people need clean water, restroom. Now, a lot of people can feel, however, and have their own opinions about why and all that. That's a thing. But regardless, there are people who are poor and who are so much less fortunate than we are. And so I don't know. I wish I knew the way, but that's what we do. We just are constantly trying to point out being able to buy school clothes when they need them, or being able to take a trip whenever we want, or own two homes, and all those things is not reality for most people. And you got to figure out a way to have gratitude for that.
Bill, something you said a minute ago that I just want people to pause on. And if you hadn't have said it, I think we could have left this conversation. People like, wow, rags to riches. Like this dude was homeless and then he caught all these breaks and then he went to the army and then he was a correctional officer. Like you were a police officer for a season, right? I mean, dude, what a badass, right? Owns two homes, lives in California by the beach. But and that's all true and that's all good. But you said sometimes I'm terrified. And I think that vulnerable statement is so important for us men and dads to hear and to just acknowledge is like, yeah, there's a lot on our shoulders as a husband, as a father, as a man. And it's all right to be like, sometimes I'm terrified. And I think that statement you made it opens the door to, yeah, there's all these really rad things about Bill. And a rad thing about Bill is that he's vulnerable enough to say, like, sometimes I'm terrified.
I was worried about the podcast and make sure I don't know. I'm a nervous Nell anyway. So man, I hope I answer the questions okay. And we had a brief conversation, obviously, and you're like, hey, man, just be you, which was great. So, but I really want my legacy to be humility. Really I'm desperately dependent, right? I'm desperately dependent on God. I'm desperately dependent on the ability to stay home. And I just really hope that when people look back, they say, man, again, I'm going to leave at some point this earth and hopefully have some legacy. And I hope it's filled with humility, love, and kindness. And so when I say I'm terrified, I mean, yesterday's a great example. Yesterday, I had a great day at work. Everything was going awesome. And then next thing, I'm sitting in the parking lot at the local hospital, attack, but I don't want to go inside because I know that's not going to help me. because I've got really terrible anxiety. What if this and what if that and on. So, yeah, I was in the hospital yesterday, parking lot for like 30 minutes, waiting for my panic attack to subside. And when it subsided, I came home and my wife's like, "Hey, how was your day?" I'm like, "Oh, it was fine." She goes, "Where were you?" I thought you were going to be home sooner. And I said, "I had to go to the hospital." She goes, "What?" I go, "Honey, I didn't go in. I was just in the parking lot. I wasn't feeling it." She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." "Well, you're better now, though, right?" And I go, "Yeah, okay, cool." And then we just kind of move on from it. But that's like a real thing for me. It doesn't happen all the time. There's a lot of things that cause me to be very anxious. I'm trying to be really open about it because everybody is trying to be, this is my opinion, and I'm okay to be wrong. But everybody's trying to be, I think, so often, and I don't know why this is, and maybe it's social media, the "hey, look at me" part of our society, but everybody I feel like is trying to be who people to like or something. I don't know. And instead, I wish people would just be their true, authentic, imperfect self. And it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, some people are better looking, some people have more money, some people are smarter, some people, every single person has a full world. God made you, and stop all the trying to pretend that we're the biggest, strongest, baddest, amazing father and we don't do anything. You know what I mean?
I know. I feel like I'm just letting go in a lot of ways of trying to have it all figured out. I don't know if it's like a kind of like you come to your 40s and you're like, damn, I thought I'd have life. Like, I thought I would have felt arrived at this point. And then it's funny, I've been reading some Richard Rohr. I don't know if you're familiar with him, and then talking to a couple of guys, and they're like, dude, you don't even arrive to like being a man until you're like mid 50s. So like just chill. And I think that arrival is probably more the awareness that I just don't know. And I'm trying to not prove to everybody around me that I do know. Bill, there's something I want to ask you. I know as like we're coming to the end of our time and I want to give a little space for this. You and I, clearly, it's like, dude, we've been rapping for 45 minutes. We could talk for hours. You come across extremely humble and not trying to prove anything. Great stories, great communicator. And when you and I spent some time together, you had shared a story that you kind of had hit this like a rock, not rock bottom. You hit a part of life where you felt like, what the frick am I doing? And your son came and called you out. And the reason why I bring it up, like you can share whatever you want about it, but the beautiful component to the story was that regardless of whatever was going on with you, you had at least cultivated a relationship with your son prior that he felt, I can come to my dad and call him out or whatever. So share whatever it is you want to share, but the goal is I want men to understand that they can build a relationship with their sons that is mutually beneficial, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what it was, I, similar to you, right? I'm in the employee benefits space, and I was fortunate enough, now that people know my story, I was fortunate enough to be able to sell my company and take some chips off the table. And we we moved and sold our home in Folsom, bought a home in App, and I was planning on living my best life here at the beach. And a lot of that decision, and I think this is important to point out, but a lot of the decision for us to move from Folsom to the beach was because I was always calm at the beach, the ocean. For a lot of people, right? How many times are you on the beach and you see someone pissed off? Never. And dogs are running, people are living their best life. I'm like, man, so I can live at the beach all the time. And my wife was against it, by the way. My wife did not want to move. She's way smarter than me. She's way smarter, way more patient. She's just a better human. I convinced everybody to move. My son moved 5 days after he graduated high school. We're living in Aptos. Unfortunately, the sale of my company didn't go the way I wanted, which is okay. Things happen. And I found myself pretty much clinically depressed for about 6 months, which is embarrassing. It's even though I have anxiety and my kids know I have anxiety and I share it, pretty vocal about it. feeling that great if it comes up. I don't go, hey, everyone, I'm anxious. But people, my family is well aware of my struggles with mental health and stuff, right? And I don't let that stop me. I mean, I still have a company. I'm constantly coaching baseball teams, and I coach at the high school, and I still live my life. I just have a few things I got to do sometimes to freak out and then come back. So I need some space to freak out occasionally. So yeah, so I was pretty much clinically depressed. And actually, my wife reminded me, but it was Christmas Eve. And I was laying in bed. And my son Spencer walked in and he goes, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "You're not feeling good, are you?" I go, "I'm okay." And I immediately was trying to like play it off, right? Because I don't want him to think I'm weak. I don't want him to think I'm a failure. To think all the things that we've already called ourselves and given all these labels. You're a loser and you're a shitty father and all that stuff. So, anyways, I said, "Spence, yeah, I'm just not feeling that great. I don't know." And he goes, "Dad, it's okay. Like, first of all, I know you're not okay. I can tell. I know you, and I can just tell that something's off. You're not doing okay." And I was like, shit. Like, okay, well, the cat's out of the bag right now. Do I come clean? Do I? And all this is happening so fast. So I just started crying because I didn't know what else to do. I'd sort of like, and he was like, "Dad, it's okay to not be okay, man. Like, you're allowed to feel this way. You're allowed to be in a bad place. And we don't think any less of you. Like, just so you know, we see how hard you work. We see all the time and effort you put into everything, whatever. Like, everything you do, you're either all even attempt it." And I'm like, okay. And I'm still crying. He's sitting right next to me. He's got his hand on me. He's kind of rubbing my back. And in that moment, I could tell that, wow, like, this is a really good human. Like, this kid has turned out pretty damn. I mean, I couldn't have had a better moment with him. And for a little while, I was like, damn it, I didn't want that to be the moment for me to realize that my wife and I had done a pretty good job of raising this kid. And then the parting words that he said to me, which were so rad, he just goes, "Dad, I just want you to remember, I know that this is just a little bump in the road for you because I know your story. I've already seen everything that you've already overcome and all that you've accomplished, which is amazing. So this is just a blip on the radar, Dad. You're gonna get over this. I know you are. And I love you. And if you need anything from me or whatever, just I'm right here with you." Whew. I mean, that was like mind bending. But yeah, so 18. Yeah. And even to this day, he's that kid that you'll do something for him, no matter what it is, anything. Take him to dinner. You'll just go to dinner as a family. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, thank you so much for dinner." And the other two are like, "Meh," which is okay. They don't have to say thank you, but it's great. He's that kid. What it is really quick, but I'd be like, "Hey, do you need a new glove? You want to get a new bat? You need new baseball pants, whatever it is." Again, pretty baseball driven. "No, man, my glove's fine." His glove broke one time and he took a zip tie to it. He didn't want a new glove. He's like, "Dad, do you have a zip tie?" I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "My glove's broken." I'm like, "Well, just get you a new glove." He's like, "Why?" "I just need a zip tie." I'm like, "All right." That's not me, man.
I love the stability that he took the opportunity to speak to you, that for whatever reason, clearly you had cultivated a relationship with him where he felt like you guys were friends or that he could do that. And it's really, I mean, it's hard to go cultivate that where you're not just this disciplinary, got your shit figured out. From my viewpoint of the little time we spent together, if I'm a dad reflecting on this, going, okay, how do I go? How do I go do that? I mean, you've done it. This whole conversation is not like it's like you've admitted your faults or you've been vulnerable with us without it being self-deprecating, right? And so I wonder, as us dads listen to this, is it really, the answer is probably yes, is the falling into humility with our kids, like, hey, I could just see you, Bill, like when he's like 16, like, I'm going to discipline you or this is matters. Now I know I have all my shit that I have, but because I'm your dad, this is what's happening. So I don't know. I mean, would you agree? Do you think that there's any other things that kind of cultivated this? Your son walking by the door, feeling like he had the authority to come in and be a blessing to you?
Man, I wish I had a good answer for that. I mean, there are two things that sort of stick out to me again, and I'm not taking this as credit. Great job, Dad. But on the other hand, I'm pretty inappropriate. Like, I got some really inappropriate jokes. Anybody who knows me will tell you that I've got some of the most inappropriate jokes on the planet. And again, there was a period of time where I was like, man, the tongue is a rudder, the tongue can be a sword. I mean, biblically speaking, right? We have to be careful about the things that we say. But I don't know, man. I can't help it. I like to tell some jokes, and I like them. The more inappropriate, the better. And as my kids have gotten older, I pick which ones to tell them and stuff. But I think you can be friends with your kids. I think you can have a dialogue with your kids, and depending on their age and stuff, maybe the joke isn't as inappropriate when they're younger, obviously. And then as they get older, you go, hey, man, I've been saving this one for 20 or whatever. So I think that's part of it, being able to be open and have that sort of dialogue and relationship with them.
Yeah, because it kind of makes it like a level playing field in a sense, in some regard, right?
Yeah, I mean, like we moved to Aptos and my son was 18. People go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you let your kid drink a beer. And I thought about it. I'm like, man, if you can go to war when you're 18, you should be able to drink a beer with your parents, right? We didn't encourage our kids to drink at all. We never have. That's not what we do. But we were sitting out by the fire one time and I was drinking a beer and he goes, hey, Dad, can I have a beer? I'm like, we had a beer together. It was awesome. He didn't then decide to start drinking or become an alcoholic or anything. And the other thing, and I don't know that we touched on this, and I think it's really important, is I have made so many mistakes. I mean, I can be such a dummy, like such an idiot in terms of my patience level or yelling at my kids when it wasn't even necessary. And by the grace of God, the Holy Spirit talking to me all the time. And I know what's right and what's wrong. Sometimes I can't fix it in the moment, but I don't know if I've ever had a moment where I overreacted or yelled out of anger or just was the punishment didn't fit the crime in terms of the way I reacted. I've gone back to my children and said, you know what, for the record, that was awful. And I cannot believe I just said what I said to you or I yelled the way I did. And I want you to know I am terribly sorry. And I hope you'll forgive me because that was not how I should. To me, there's so many lessons in that. And so I think as men, we have to be willing to admit to our kids and show our kids if you do something wrong, you need to own it and say sorry for it. Even when you're doing it to your own kids, it's not going to mean that they think you're soft and now they can get away with stuff. And it also doesn't mean you're not going to lose your crap again and scream and yell 2 days later.
And then are you willing to, yes, are you authentically sorry and are you growing and changing, right? If I'm the same asshole today that I was 10 years ago, then I'm full of shit. But if there's this progression of like dad is growing as a human, it gives them the freedom to grow as a human too, right? And to realize that doesn't stop at 18 or 20 or whatever. Any last thoughts on yelling? So I know like we talked a little bit about that yelling was something that you've grown in, have like this awareness that yelling is really not helpful or healthy. But as you've developed, any thoughts around yelling?
I'll tell you a really good story, but here's what I sort of leave with. In business and life and so many things, I always want to do things. I want to make a decision. And sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Like if you're trying to make a decision about what to do in business, you want to hire somebody, you're maybe thinking about taking your kids on a trip, you're thinking about having a conversation with somebody, you want to yell at your kids because they just did something terrible or whatever. There's never anything wrong with just going, okay, pause. That's it. Just pause and think, how would I want them to receive the message? How should I say it? And that's why coaches have the 24-hour rule, right? Your kid doesn't play as much as you think he should, or coach did something you didn't like because, again, where you're being a crazy parent or whatever. And instead of appreciating that the coach is coaching your kid and spending all his free time doing it, you're pissed because little Johnny didn't get to it. or get to play center field and got put at first base instead and whatever. But the 24-hour rule's there so that you can have time to relax. And so a really cool thing happened to me, and I haven't brought him up yet, which is shocking to me. But I have a best friend named Blaine Persiani. He's one of the greatest human beings walking the earth. He's who led me to Christ, literally. He and I used to work at the sheriff's office. And my wife and I got in a big fight. And my wife basically said to me one time, "You're yelling at the kids all the time." And the only thing I heard was, "You're a shitty father." And she said it multiple times. So I called my friend Blaine. And the reason I called him is because I wanted to go, "Yeah, I can't believe she said you're a shitty father," and on and on. And that's not what happened. I called him because I wanted him to be on my team. And he was on my team, just not how I wanted him to. He basically said, "Hey, you know you're an idiot, right?" I go, "Okay, well, why this time?" Right? There's many reasons, but why this one? And he said, "Dude, your wife is not the type of person to say that to you." What she said, she didn't say you're a shitty father. She said you're yelling at the kids too much. You probably are. You yell at them for everything. So what you need to do is figure out how to stop yelling at them, because talking to them means the same. The real challenge there, and it always is, Ned, my wife is calm and patient and can talk about most things with the kids at all times. I want to drop it. And I don't know if that probably comes from a place of fear. It probably comes from dysfunction, upbringing, whatever. But the bottom line is that was a really pivotal. In that moment, Blaine said to me, "You need to stick your tail between your legs. You need to evolve. You need to be a better father and stop yelling at your freaking kids all the time." And man, that was a tough pill to swallow. But I went to my wife and I said, "I love you and I'm sorry and I'm going to evolve and I'm just going to try hard. I'm going to get better." And she will legitimately, because I've really worked with her, she will tell you there's still many times where I yelled and I was, "Darn it, man, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have yelled." But there have been way more times than not where I've said to the kids, "Hey, I really don't want to yell right now. And you're upsetting me and you're pushing my buttons, but I really need you to stop. Because if you don't, you're going to see a side of me you don't want to see." And I'll give them sort of warnings or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that was a really pivotal moment for me to evolve and say, "Stop yelling, man. Just evolve. Stop yelling. It's not helping." And then you're teaching them. Again, we're modeling behavior at all times. You're teaching them that's how you deal with your problem, is to yell.
And something you said in that is like, if you're yelling or you're talking, you're communicating the same, like you're saying the same words. So like, can I figure out how to communicate what it is I want to communicate without bringing all this emotional fear or whatever it might be into this? Because it's almost like, I mean, I see it when it's like some of your kids handle things differently. Like if I yell at one kid, it's like not a big deal. I yell at another kid and it's like hurting their soul, right? You can just see that and so then all communication is lost because they're shut down. They're like, I don't hear anything other than I'm a shitty kid, right? You know what I mean? They're not hearing the words. Dude, Bill, this has been incredible talking to you about fatherhood and life and hearing your story. Um, Typically the question I ask at the end is, what's the legacy you want to leave? You answered that already talking about humility, right? And I mean, that just came through. And so I'm going to ask a different ending question here. As we look, say, 10 years into the future, what type of grandfather do you want to be? 10, 15, 20 years. What does that look like? How do you show up for them? How do you prepare for that next season that's a ways out? What does that look like?
Well, you've got really good questions, and it's actually one of the better questions, and I'll tell you why. My mother-in-law passed away about 4 years ago when she was going through a rough time health-wise, and we moved her into our home, and we hired some full-time caretakers. And I had this idea in my head that her home, and then for all my son's baseball games, soccer games, or whatever sports, we were just going to take her and wheel her around. She'd have a walker, but she'd be at all of our kids' activities, and that would bring out the best of her, and she'd live another 20 years. And it didn't work that way. But because of how I grew up, and because I've coached high school baseball, little league, travel baseball, whatever, and my kids actually do play other sports, I'm always in awe of the grandparents who show up to all the games, all the practices, all the stuff, whatever it is. And I make it a point to say to them, man, God bless you. That is such a gift that you keep coming even when maybe their grandchild isn't very good of an athlete at that moment and they're just not playing very much or they don't play at all. But grandma and grandpa, they're hell or high water. I mean, we know grandparents that are coming 3 hours. They live in the Central Valley and they're coming to Folsom 3 hours to see their grandkids play high school baseball. And so I am going to be present no matter what. And that's the part that we need to really remember is that whether your kid is a baseball player, whether your kid is in every moment of every second that you are with your kids, regardless of the activity that's happening, is time that you will never, ever be able to recover. So spend it with them, cherish the memories, cherish the experiences, and just show up. I mean, that's part of it, right? That's in life, that's in everything. There's a reason the rearview mirror is so small. What's in the rearview mirror is irrelevant. What's in the windshield is what's most important. And so I forget who said this. It might have been a Tony Robbins thing. And I like Tony Robbins. I don't listen to him enough to say, but if you're living in the future, you're anxious. If you're living in the past, you're depressed. So just be here and show up today. Put one foot in front of the other. But as a grandparent, man, being at every single activity humanly possible and sugaring up those kids like crazy and then giving them back.
Bill, what a beautiful answer and what an exciting thing to be looking forward to, right? It's cool that you've already kind of had the experience with the mother-in-law. You see regularly the grandparents that are there. So you've got this picture of the future. And I think it's important for us. And it's a reminder of like, oh, am I doing that now with my own kids, right? Which is beautiful how you shared the Tony Robbins kind of like future, past, present. Bill, thank you for the man you are. Thank you for taking opportunities. Thank you for listening to the Gregs of the world. When the moments came, you listened, even if it took a few times. And my prayer and hope is that every dude listening to this conversation just starts to live in the present and looks for those opportunities and then apologizes when he doesn't take them and celebrates when he does. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you do, and dude, just massive blessing to you and your family. And I look forward to our paths crossing again in the future.
Thank you.
All right, my friend, until next time. So good. I could have talked to Bill for another couple of hours. I love his stories. I love the way that he communicates. Very easy to be around. Just inspiring as well to just be so vulnerable while at the same time really a strength and confidence in the way that he approaches just sharing his life with us. One of the things that I just really leave with is just he used the word humility a lot, but it just came across. And again, it's just this combination of humility that really feels like it leads to a strength of confidence, something that I think all of us men need and desire and could probably use a bit more of in our life. So funny is leaning into the humility side is probably what's going to give you that confidence that you're looking for. My friends, if this was helpful, send it to a friend, write a review, help spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and your community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.